I was 23 years old when the doctors told me I was dying. They said I needed surgery, urgent surgery, the kind that costs money most people don't have lying around. $5,000. That's what stood between me and living. I remember sitting in that sterile hospital room, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, holding a piece of paper with numbers I couldn't make sense of. The doctor's voice was kind but firm. Without this procedure, Sarah, you have maybe 6 months. With it, you have your whole life ahead of you. 6 months. I called my parents that same night. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I thought they'd be terrified. I thought they'd drop everything and figure it out together. My father answered. I told him everything: the diagnosis, the surgery, the cost. There was a long silence. Then he said, "Sarah, we just can't afford that right now." I felt the air leave my lungs. But it was my brother, my broke, struggling, barely getting by brother, who showed up at my apartment 3 days later with a duffel bag and a look in his eyes I'll never forget. He didn't have $5,000. He didn't even have 500, but he saved my life anyway. This is the story of how my own parents let me go and how the person I least expected became my hero. Let me tell you about my family first, because none of this will make sense without understanding where we came from. I grew up in a small town outside of Columbus, Ohio, middle-class neighborhood, tree-lined streets, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone and your business was never really your own. My parents, Richard and Linda Carter, were what you'd call comfortable. My dad worked as a regional manager for an insurance company. My mom was a part-time accountant. They weren't rich, but they weren't struggling either. We had a nice house, 2 cars, family vacations every summer to the same lake cabin in Michigan. Then there was my older brother, Marcus. Marcus was different from the rest of us. He was the dreamer, the artist, the one who didn't fit the mold my parents had carefully constructed for us. While I went to college and got my degree in business administration, just like they wanted, Marcus dropped out after one semester to pursue photography. He wanted to travel, to capture the world through a lens, to live on his own terms. My parents hated it. I still remember the fights, the shouting matches across the dinner table. My mother's voice, sharp and disappointed. "You're throwing your life away, Marcus." My father, cold and final. "Don't come crying to us when you're broke and homeless." Marcus left home at 20, moved to Chicago with nothing but a backpack, a camera, and a stubborn belief that he could make it work. For years, my parents barely spoke to him. When they did, it was tense, strained. My mother would ask if he'd come to his senses yet. My father would make comments about real jobs and wasted potential. I tried to stay neutral. I loved my brother, but I also understood my parents' frustration. They'd worked hard to give us stability. They wanted the same for us. But Marcus wasn't built for their version of success. He struggled. A lot. He worked odd jobs, waiting tables, doing deliveries, freelance gigs that barely paid. He lived in tiny apartments with 3 roommates. He ate ramen more nights than not, but he never gave up on his dream. And honestly, I admired him for it, even if I never said it out loud. As for me, I did everything right. I graduated with honors, got a job at a marketing firm in Cleveland, rented a decent apartment, went to family dinners every Sunday. I was the good daughter, the one who made them proud, or so I thought. When I turned 23, I started feeling sick, tired all the time, sharp pains in my abdomen that wouldn't go away. I ignored it for weeks, thinking it was stress from work, but it got worse. One night, the pain was so bad I couldn't stand up. My roommate drove me to the emergency room. That's when they found it, a large cyst on my ovary. Complicated, dangerous. It needed to come out immediately or it could rupture. If it ruptured, I could die. The surgery wasn't covered by my insurance. I'd taken the cheapest plan my company offered because I was young and healthy and never thought I'd need it. $5,000. That's what the hospital said it would cost, up front. I didn't have $5,000. I had maybe 800 in my savings account. I sat in my apartment that night, staring at the medical bills spread across my coffee table. I felt so small, so helpless. That's when I picked up the phone and called my parents. My mom answered first. I told her everything. My voice was shaking. I was trying not to cry. "Mom, I need help," I said. "I don't have the money. I don't know what to do." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Let me get your father." I heard muffled voices in the background. Then my dad's voice came through, calm and measured. "Sarah, your mother told me what's going on." "Dad, I'm scared. The doctor said if I don't get this surgery soon—" "I understand," he interrupted, "but $5,000 is a lot of money." "I know. I wouldn't ask if I had any other choice." There was a pause. I could hear him breathing. "Sarah, my mother and I just put a down payment on a new car. We're planning a trip to Europe next spring. Money's tight right now." I felt my chest tighten. "Dad, I'm talking about my life." "I know, sweetheart, and we'll help however we can, but we just can't give you $5,000 right now. Maybe you can set up a payment plan with the hospital." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "A payment plan?" I repeated. "Dad, they said I need this surgery in the next 2 weeks or—" "Then you need to figure something out," he said, his tone firm. "We're not a bank, Sarah. We have our own expenses." My mother's voice came back on the line, softer, but not soft enough. "Honey, maybe you could ask your work for an advance, or start a fundraiser online. People do that now." I hung up. I didn't say goodbye. I just ended the call and sat there in the dark, staring at nothing. My parents, who took vacations and bought new cars and lived comfortably, had just told me I wasn't worth $5,000. I didn't tell anyone for 2 days. I went to work, I smiled, I pretended everything was fine, but inside I was drowning. I looked into payment plans. The hospital wouldn't budge. They needed at least half up front. I started a GoFundMe, shared it everywhere, raised $300 in a week. It wasn't enough. It wasn't even close. I started accepting that I might actually die. And then, on a rainy Thursday evening, there was a knock on my door. I opened it, and there stood Marcus stood in my doorway soaking wet. His dark hair was plastered to his forehead. He wore an old denim jacket over a faded gray t-shirt and jeans with holes in the knees. His beat-up messenger bag hung across his chest. He looked exactly like someone who'd just taken a 6-hour Greyhound bus from Chicago in the rain. "Marcus?" I said, shocked. "What are you doing here?" He didn't answer right away. He just looked at me with those serious brown eyes of his. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. I stepped aside. He walked in, dripping water onto my entryway floor. "You're soaked," I said. "Let me get you a towel." "I'm fine," he said, but I grabbed one anyway and tossed it to him. He set his bag down and ran the towel over his hair. Then he looked around my small apartment. The medical bills were still scattered on the coffee table. I hadn't cleaned them up. His eyes landed on them. He walked over slowly and picked one up. "Sarah," he said, "why didn't you call me?" My throat tightened. "How did you even know?" "Mom mentioned it," he said, "last week. She called to ask if I had any money I could lend you." I felt a flash of anger. "You asked you for money? You barely have enough to feed yourself." Marcus gave a bitter smile. "Yeah, that's what I told her." He set the bill down and looked at me. Really looked at me. "But she also told me they said no to you." I turned away. I didn't want him to see my face. "It's fine," I said, my voice tight. "I'm figuring it out." "Sarah, don't lie to me." I spun around. What do you want me to say, Marcus? That our parents chose a trip to Europe over saving my life? That I've been sitting here for 2 weeks trying not to think about dying? My voice cracked. Tears spilled down my cheeks before I could stop them. Marcus closed the distance between us and pulled me into his arms. I broke. I sobbed into his chest. All the fear, all the anger, all the loneliness I'd been holding in came pouring out. He just held me, didn't say a word, just let me cry. When I finally pulled away, he kept his hands on my shoulders. "How much do you need?" he asked. I wiped my eyes. "Marcus, you can't—" "How much?" "5,000, I whispered. "But I've raised 300, so I need—" 4,700, he finished. I nodded. He let out a long breath and ran a hand through his wet hair. "Okay," he said. I stared at him. "Okay? Marcus, you don't have that kind of money." "I know," he said, "but I'll get it." "How?" I demanded. "You live paycheck to paycheck. You told me last month you were eating peanut butter sandwiches for dinner because you couldn't afford groceries." He looked at me with a calmness that scared me. "I'll figure it out," he said. "You're my sister. I'm not letting you die." The next morning, Marcus was gone when I woke up. He'd left a note on my kitchen counter. "Gone to handle some things. Don't worry, I'll be back. M." I tried calling him. No answer. I texted him. Nothing. For 3 days, I heard nothing from my brother. I started to panic. What was he doing? What had he gotten himself into? Finally, on the 4th day, he called. "Hey," he said. His voice sounded tired. "Marcus, where have you been? I've been going crazy." "I'm fine," he said. "I'm still in Chicago. I just needed to take care of some things." "What things?" He hesitated. "I sold my camera equipment." My heart sank. "Marcus, no." "It's fine," he said quickly. "I got 2,000 for it. It's a start." "That's your whole career," I said, my voice breaking. "That's everything you've worked for." "Sarah, it's just equipment. I can get more later. You can't get more life." I didn't know what to say. "There's more," he continued. "I talked to my landlord. I'm breaking my lease early. I'll lose my deposit, but that's another 800. "Where are you going to live?" "I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll stay with a friend for a while." "Marcus." I also picked up 2 extra jobs. I'm doing overnight deliveries and weekend event photography. It's not glamorous, but it pays. I was crying now. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do," he said firmly. "You're my sister, and I'm not our parents." That sentence hit me like a punch. "I'm not our parents," he repeated. "I won't let you down." Over the next week, Marcus worked himself to the bone. He sent me updates every day, small deposits into my account, $50 here, 100 there. He sold his bike, his laptop, his vinyl record collection that he'd been building since high school. He worked 3 jobs, barely slept, lived on coffee and whatever free food he could find. I begged him to stop. I told him it was too much, that I'd find another way. But he wouldn't listen. "I'm getting you that surgery," he said. End of story. By the end of 2 weeks, Marcus had scraped together $3,800. We were still 900 short. I could see the exhaustion in his voice when we talked. He sounded hollow, worn down. "Marcus, please stop," I said during one call. "You've done enough, more than enough. I'll figure out the rest." "I'm not stopping," he said. "You're killing yourself. And you'll actually die if you don't get this surgery," he shot back. "So no, I'm not stopping." There was a desperation in his voice I'd never heard before. "Sarah, you're the only person in this family who never made me feel like a failure," he said quietly. "When everyone else wrote me off, you still answered my calls. You still asked how I was doing. You still believed in me." I felt tears streaming down my face. I can't lose you, he said, his voice breaking. I won't. 3 days before my surgery deadline, something happened. Marcus called me in the middle of the night. It was 2 a.m. Sarah, he said. His voice was strange, tight. What's wrong? I asked, sitting up in bed. I got the rest. I froze. What? I got the money, all of it. How? I whispered. He was quiet for a long moment. I sold my car. My heart stopped. Marcus, no, that was Grandpa's car. He left it to you. Our grandfather had passed away 3 years ago. He'd left Marcus his old 1987 Ford pickup truck. It was beat up and rusty, but Marcus loved that truck. It was one of the few things he owned that meant something. It's just a car, Marcus said, but I could hear the pain in his voice. No, it's not, I said, sobbing. It was Grandpa's. It was yours. And now it's $5,000 that's going to save your life, he said. I already wired the money to the hospital. Your surgery is scheduled for Friday. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. Marcus, I love you, Sarah, he said softly, and I'd sell everything I own 100 times over if it meant keeping you alive. He hung up before I could respond. I sat in my bed in the dark, crying harder than I'd ever cried in my life. My brother, who had nothing, had given me everything. The surgery was scheduled for Friday morning at 7 a.m. Marcus took another Greyhound bus back to Cleveland on Thursday night. He showed up at my apartment around midnight, carrying the same beat-up messenger bag and wearing the same tired expression. But when I opened the door, he smiled. "Ready for tomorrow?" he asked. I pulled him inside and hugged him so hard I thought I might break him. "Thank you," I whispered into his shoulder. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." He hugged me back just as tight. "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do," I said, pulling back to look at him. "You gave up everything." He shrugged. "I didn't give up anything that mattered. Your camera, your car, your home are all just things," he interrupted gently. "You're my sister. You're not a thing." I started crying again. I seem to be doing that a lot lately. Marcus stayed with me that night. We sat on my couch, eating Chinese takeout he'd picked up on the way over, probably with the last bit of money he had. We didn't talk about the surgery. We didn't talk about our parents. We just watched old sitcom reruns and pretended everything was normal. Around 2 in the morning, I finally asked the question that had been eating at me. "Have Mom and Dad called you?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "No." "Have they called you at all, since you started doing all this?" "No," he said again. I felt a fresh wave of anger. "They know what you're doing, right? Mom told you about my situation. They have to know you've been helping me." Marcus stared at the TV screen. "I called Dad last week." I sat up straighter. "You did?" "Yeah," he said. "I told him I'd gotten you the money for the surgery. I don't know. I thought maybe he'd feel something. Guilt, shame, anything." "What did he say?" Marcus's laugh was bitter. He said, "Well, I hope you didn't do anything stupid, Marcus. You can't afford to throw money around." My mouth fell open. "He said that?" "Word for word," Marcus said. Then he told me I should have encouraged you to be more financially responsible, that this was a good lesson for you about having proper insurance. I felt like I'd been slapped. "He said it was a lesson?" I repeated, my voice rising. "I'm 23 years old with a tumor that could kill me, and he thinks this is a teaching moment?" Marcus finally looked at me. His eyes were hard, angry in a way I rarely saw from him. "That's when I realized something," he said quietly. "Our parents don't actually care about us. They care about the idea of us, the version of us that fits their plans and makes them look good." "Marcus." "No, listen," he said. "You did everything right. You went to college, you got the job, you followed every rule they ever set. And the second you needed them, actually needed them, they turned their backs on you. He ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. And me? I've been the disappointment since I was 18, the failure, the one wasting his life. But I'm the one who showed up. I'm the one who sold everything I had, not them. I reached over and took his hand. You're not a failure, Marcus. You never were. He squeezed my hand but didn't respond. We sat in silence for a while. I don't think I can forgive them for this, I said, finally. Marcus shook his head. No, I don't think I can either. Friday morning came too quickly. Marcus drove me to the hospital in a rental car he'd somehow managed to get. I didn't ask how. I didn't want to know what else he sacrificed. We sat in the pre-op waiting room together. I was in a hospital gown, an IV already in my arm. Marcus sat beside me in the plastic chair, holding my hand. You're going to be fine, he said. The doctors said this is routine. I know, I said, but my voice was shaking. I'll be right here when you wake up, he promised. A nurse came to wheel me back. I looked at Marcus one more time. I love you, I said. I love you too. Now go get fixed up so we can get pizza after. I laughed, despite everything. They wheeled me down a long white hallway. The fluorescent lights blurred above me. I heard voices, the beeping of machines, the squeak of the gurney wheels. And then I was in the operating room. The anesthesiologist told me to count backward from 10. I got to 7. When I woke up, the first thing I saw was Marcus. He was sitting in the chair beside my hospital bed, his head tilted back, mouth slightly open, fast asleep. He looked exhausted. There were dark circles under his eyes, his clothes were wrinkled. But he was there, just like he promised. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry. A nurse noticed I was awake and came over with a small cup of ice chips. The surgery went perfectly, she said softly. Dr. Ramirez said everything looked good. You're going to be fine. Tears slipped down my face. The nurse smiled. Your brother hasn't left that chair once. We tried to get him to go to the cafeteria, but he refused. I looked at him again. This man who'd given everything for me. He's a good one, the nurse said. Yeah, I whispered. He really is. I was in the hospital for 2 days. Marcus stayed the entire time. He slept in that uncomfortable chair. He brought me magazines and terrible hospital coffee. He made jokes to keep my spirits up. He never once complained. On the second day, my phone rang. It was my mother. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Marcus noticed. You don't have to answer. But I did. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to hear what she'd say. Maybe I wanted her to prove me wrong. Hello? I said. Sarah, honey, it's Mom. Her voice was bright, cheerful, like nothing had happened. Hi, Mom. I heard your surgery went well. That's wonderful news. I closed my eyes. Yeah, it did. I'm so glad. Your father and I were so worried. Something inside me snapped. Were you? I said coldly. There was a pause. Of course we were, sweetheart. Worried enough to help? Another pause, longer this time. Sarah, we explained our situation. Marcus sold everything he owns, I interrupted. His camera, his car, the truck Grandpa left him. He's been working 3 jobs and sleeping 4 hours a night. He gave up his apartment. He has nothing left, Mom. Nothing. Silence. And you couldn't give me $5,000 because you bought a new car? Sarah, that's not fair. He's broke, Mom, I said, my voice breaking. He's broke already, and he gave me everything anyway. And you have money. You have savings. You have retirement accounts. But you chose a vacation over your daughter's life. We have expenses. So does Marcus, I shouted. Then I took a breath, lowered my voice. So does Marcus. But he didn't let that stop him. My mother was quiet for a long moment. Well, she said finally, her tone clipped. I'm glad Marcus could help. We'll talk when you're feeling better. She hung up. I stared at my phone in disbelief. Marcus looked at me from his chair. You okay? She didn't apologize, I said numbly. She didn't even. She acted like it was fine, like what they did was reasonable. Marcus stood up and sat on the edge of my bed. That's because in their minds it is reasonable. They'll never see it the way we do. How can they not feel guilty? I whispered. Because they've convinced themselves they did nothing wrong, and nothing we say will change that. I was discharged from the hospital on Sunday afternoon. Marcus helped me into the rental car, carrying my small bag of belongings. The October air was cool and crisp. The trees were starting to turn orange and gold. I was alive. For the first time in weeks, I let myself really feel that. I was going to live. Marcus drove me back to my apartment. He helped me up the stairs, made sure I was settled on the couch with blankets and pillows. I'm going to make you some soup, he said. You don't have to. I'm making you soup, he said firmly. I smiled and let him. While he was in the kitchen, I looked around my apartment. Everything looked the same, but I felt completely different. Marcus came back 20 minutes later with a bowl of canned chicken noodle soup and some crackers. Gourmet meal, he said with a grin. Perfect, I said. We ate together in comfortable silence. The TV played quietly in the background. After a while, I asked, "What are you going to do now?" Marcus set down his bowl. What do you mean? You don't have an apartment, you don't have a car, you sold all your equipment. I looked at him. Marcus, where are you going to go? He shrugged. I'll figure it out. I've got a buddy in Chicago who said I could crash on his couch for a while. I'll pick up more shifts, save up, start over. Start over, I repeated. You had to start over because of me. No, he said sharply. I chose to help you. That's different. But, Sarah, listen to me, he said, turning to face me fully. I would do it all again. Every single bit of it. You're alive. That's all that matters. Tears welled up in my eyes. I don't know how to repay you. You don't, he said simply. That's not how this works. You're my sister. I love you. That's it. I wiped my eyes. I love you too. He smiled. I know. Marcus stayed with me for another week. He slept on my couch, he made sure I took my medications, he helped me with things I couldn't do on my own yet, he made me laugh when I felt down. During that week, our parents called twice. The first time, my father called. He asked how I was feeling. I told him I was recovering well. He said that was good. Then he asked if Marcus was still in town. Yes, I said. He's staying with me. Well, tell him not to get too comfortable, my father said. He needs to get back to work. He can't just take weeks off whenever he feels like it. I hung up without saying goodbye. The second time, my mother called. She wanted to know when I'd be well enough to come to Sunday dinner again. I don't think I'll be coming to Sunday dinners anymore, I said calmly. What? Why not? Because I don't want to, Mom. There was a shocked silence. Sarah, we're your family. So is Marcus, and he's the only one who acted like it. That's not fair. We explained our financial situation. I don't want to hear it anymore, I said quietly. I'm done making excuses for you. Sarah, I need to go, Mom. Take care. I hung up. Marcus was standing in the doorway. He'd heard the whole thing. You okay? He asked. I nodded. Yeah, I think I am. When Marcus finally had to leave, I walked him down to the rental car. It was early morning. The sun was just coming up, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. Marcus threw his bag in the back seat, then he turned to me. You sure you're going to be okay? He asked. I'm sure, I said. My friend Rachel said she'll check on me, and I go back to work next week. He nodded. Call me if you need anything. I don't care what time it is. I will, I promised. He pulled me into a hug. I held on tight. Thank you, I whispered, for everything, for saving my life, for being here, for being you. You'd do the same for me. In a heartbeat, I agreed. He pulled back and looked at me seriously. Marcus, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Don't let them make you feel guilty, he said. Mom and Dad, they're going to try. They're going to act like you're being unreasonable or ungrateful. Don't believe them. I nodded. I won't. You deserve better than how they treated you, he continued. Don't forget that. I won't, I said again. He smiled. Good. He got in the car, started the engine. I stood on the sidewalk and watched him drive away. The months that followed were strange. I healed, slowly but surely. The surgery had been successful. The doctors said I was cancer-free. I'd need regular checkups, but I was going to be fine. Marcus and I talked on the phone every few days. He'd found a tiny studio apartment in a rough part of Chicago. He was working 2 jobs, one at a coffee shop, one doing freelance photo editing online. He was rebuilding, piece by piece. I sent him money when I could. He always tried to refuse it, but I insisted. You saved my life, I'd tell him. Let me help you get yours back. Eventually, he stopped arguing. As for my parents, I kept my distance. My mother called every few weeks. The conversations were short, surface level. She never apologized. Neither did my father. They acted like nothing had happened, like their refusal to help me was just an unfortunate circumstance, water under the bridge. But I couldn't forget, and I couldn't forgive. Not yet, maybe not ever. 6 months after my surgery, something unexpected happened. I got a promotion at work, a significant one with a significant raise. The first thing I did was call Marcus. Guess what? I said when he answered. What? I got promoted and I'm getting a $20,000 raise. He let out a whoop of excitement. Sarah, that's amazing. I know, I said, grinning, and I want to do something with the first check. What? I want to buy you a camera, a really good one, professional quality. Marcus was quiet. Marcus? Sarah, you don't have to do that, he said softly. I know I don't have to, I said. I want to. You gave up your dreams for me. Let me help you get them back. I heard him take a shaky breath. Thank you, he whispered. 2 weeks later, I drove to Chicago with a brand new camera and 3 lenses in the trunk of my car. When I showed up at Marcus's apartment, he opened the door and just stared at me. What are you doing here? He asked, surprised. I held up the camera bag. Delivery? His eyes widened. He took the bag carefully, like it was made of glass. He unzipped it, looked inside, and his whole face lit up. Sarah, he breathed. Do you like it? I asked. He looked up at me with tears in his eyes. It's perfect. I smiled. Good. Now you can get back to doing what you love. He set the bag down carefully and pulled me into the tightest hug. I don't deserve you, he said. Yeah, you do. You deserve everything good in this world, Marcus. That visit changed something between us. We'd always been close, but after everything we'd been through, our bond became unbreakable. Marcus was more than my brother. He was my hero, my best friend, the person I trusted most in the world, and I made sure he knew it. A year after my surgery, I got a letter in the mail. It was from my mother. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a short, handwritten note. Dear Sarah, your father and I have been thinking a lot lately. We realize we may have handled things poorly last year. We hope you can understand that we were in a difficult position financially. We never meant to hurt you. We'd love to see you again. Sunday dinners haven't been the same without you. Love, Mom. I read it twice. Then I put it in the trash. There was no real apology, no acknowledgement of what they'd actually done, just excuses and an expectation that I'd come back like nothing happened. I called Marcus. I got a letter from Mom, I said. Yeah, he said. What'd it say? I told him. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, What are you going to do? I said. Nothing. I'm not going back. Not until they actually take responsibility. And honestly, I don't think they ever will. Probably not, Marcus agreed. Does that make me a bad daughter? I asked. No, he said firmly. It makes you someone who knows her worth. I smiled. Thanks, Marcus. Anytime, sis.
That was 3 years ago. Today, I'm 26 years old, healthy, happy, alive. I still live in Cleveland. I got another promotion last year. I have my own place now. A small house with a backyard and a garden I'm trying not to kill. Marcus is doing well too. Better than well, actually. He's a full-time photographer now. He travels all over the country shooting weddings, portraits, and editorial work. His Instagram has over 50,000 followers. He's living the dream he almost gave up. Last month, he called me with news. I got booked for a shoot in New York, he said, his voice buzzing with excitement. For a major magazine. Sarah, this is huge. I screamed so loud my neighbor knocked on the wall. Marcus, that's incredible. I know, he said, and I never would have gotten here without you. Without me? I said. Marcus, you did this. You rebuilt everything from nothing. Yeah, but you gave me the tools to do it, he said. The camera you bought me? That's what started it all. That's what got me my first big client. My throat tightened. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you too, he said. Look at us. We made it. Yeah, I said softly. We did. I haven't spoken to my parents in over 2 years. They've stopped calling, stopped sending letters. I don't know if they talk about me, if they wonder how I'm doing, if they regret what happened. Honestly, I don't think about it much anymore. I used to be angry, hurt. I used to lie awake at night wondering how they could do that to me, how they could choose money over their own child. But I'm not angry anymore. I've just let it go. Not because they deserve forgiveness, but because holding on to that pain was hurting me more than it was hurting them. I've built a new family, one that I chose. Marcus, obviously, my best friend Rachel, who brought me meals every day after my surgery, my coworkers who became friends, the people who showed up when it mattered. That's what family really is, I think. Not the people you're related to by blood, but the people who show up, who stay, who choose you again and again. Last weekend, Marcus came to visit. He pulled up in front of my house in an old but reliable Honda Civic, not as special as Grandpa's truck, but it was his. Nice ride, I said when he got out. She's not much, he said, patting the hood, but she's mine, paid for in cash. Look at you, Mr. Responsible, I teased. He laughed. Don't tell anyone. I've got a reputation to maintain. We spent the weekend together, cooked dinner, watched movies, talked about everything and nothing. On Sunday morning, we sat on my back porch with coffee watching the sun come up. Do you ever think about them? Marcus asked quietly. I knew who he meant. Sometimes, I admitted. Not as much as I used to. Me too, he said. I don't hate them. I don't understand them. I don't think we ever will, I said. We sat in silence for a while. Do you have any regrets about what you did, selling everything? Marcus looked at me like I'd just asked the stupidest question in the world. Not even for a second, he said. Really? Sarah, you're sitting here, alive, healthy, living your life. He gestured around. This house, your career, your future, all of this exists because you got that surgery. He looked at me seriously. I sold some stuff. So what? Stuff can be replaced. You can't. My throat tightened. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you too, he said. Look at us. We made it. Yeah, I said softly. We did. I've learned something these past few years. I've learned that love isn't about grand gestures or perfect words. It's about showing up. It's about sacrifice. It's about choosing someone even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. My parents had the resources to save me, but they chose not to. My brother had nothing, but he chose to give everything. That's the difference, and that's the lesson I carry with me now. When someone you love needs you, you show up. You don't make excuses. You don't protect your comfort. You don't calculate the cost. You just show up. Because love isn't measured in dollars or possessions. It's measured in sacrifice, in presence, in the willingness to put someone else's life before your own convenience. If I could go back and talk to the girl sitting in that hospital room, holding that impossible bill in her shaking hands, I'd tell her this: you're going to be okay. Yes, your parents will fail you, and yes, it will break your heart, but your brother, the one everyone said was wasting his life, he's going to prove them all wrong. He's going to show you what real love looks like. He's going to give up everything, and he's not going to regret it for a single second. You're going to survive, and more than that, you're going to thrive. You're going to build a life filled with people who actually show up for you, and you're going to learn that family isn't about who shares your blood. It's about who's willing to share their last dollar, their last bit of hope, their last ounce of strength. That's family, and you're going to be surrounded by it. So if you're reading this, if you're going through something impossible, if you feel alone and abandoned by the people who were supposed to love you, I want you to know you will survive this, and the people who truly love you, they'll show themselves. Maybe not in the ways you expect, maybe not from the places you'd imagine, but they'll come, and they'll show you what love really means. Hold on to those people, cherish them, let them in, and let go of the ones who proved they were never really there in the first place. You deserve better than people who only love you when it's convenient. You deserve the kind of love that shows up, that sacrifices, that stays. The kind of love my brother showed me. The kind of love that saved my life.